All right, everyone, welcome. Glad to have you join us for the Ultimate Code Ask Me Anything webinar. And as the title suggests, this is a much more interesting webinar if you ask us things. It could be very short if you don't. That being said, we do have some prepared comments and various things and information to share with you. But while we're going through this webinar, definitely in the comments, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on YouTube live, give us that feedback, give us those questions, those comments, and as they come in, we will address those specifically during the webinar and at the end as well. So definitely make use of that. And with that, I'm going to introduce the speakers we have today. So it's myself, I'm Matthew Halliday. I'm here on the product team here at Ultimate AI. And I also have with me Pranesh Patel, co-founder and CEO of Ultimate AI. And both of us have been in the data space, working with data, creating interesting products and solutions for data engineers, for data practitioners, whether it's building out pipelines or whether it's building the products that people use to create those data pipelines. So that's what we've been doing. And of course, for the last few years, with the rise of AI, we've been heavily involved in creating what will that future of work look like for data engineers. And so I kind of wanted to start off with a little bit of what maybe some of you have tried. So some of you who are already thinking, I'm going to try some agentic data engineering. I've seen just how amazing a job Claude Code can do when it comes to writing software and building applications. Surely it's just going to be an amazing experience and knock it out of the park when I try it with data engineering tasks. And so here, I'm going to just show you an example of running Claude Code, yes, with the dangerously skip permissions to move things along as fast as possible, and build a detailed revenue and growth dashboard using the OList public data sets, including a marketing funnel. So this is going to go off, and Claude Code is going to start to think, okay, I'm going to start to do this. It starts going out, it looks for the data sets, it does some tasks, and it looks promising from the get-go. Things like, okay, this could come beyond to something. Now, there's some things, though, that this harness, and we'll explain what a harness is, does not do when it comes to data engineering. And it was built predominantly for coding, for software development. And coding and data engineering are different. And data engineering, we need to take into account that we have a very rich data structure. We have data within those tables that we need to know about. There's information about our data stack that crosses all over the pipelines that enable us to understand exactly what's going on. And so I'll leave this run and I'm going to jump over to another tab and show you exactly what it ends up producing. It runs into some troubles. It thinks and makes up a few things when it comes to SQL and various ways of showing it. But in the interest of time, I'm going to jump over here and show a different dashboard, which is the end result of what this did. And so it came back with some things. It did come up with a few things. And first look, you might be saying, okay, this doesn't look too bad. There's some information in here that might be interesting. Now, without knowing that data, of course, though, you're not going to fully understand exactly where it went wrong or what happened. Now, what we're going to do in today's call is run this again later on using Ultimate Code and explaining a little bit more about what we see in the background and what exactly is going on. And so that will be where we'll better understand exactly how to get to a more structured data product, a data solution that really brings what you need, that takes everything that needs to be brought into account, right? So with that, I'm going to hand over to Pranesh, who's going to introduce what we're talking about today.
Thanks, Matthew. Matthew just showed us an example of, how Cloud Code can struggle when it comes to data engineering work. And not to pick on Cloud Code, it's the same story, whether you use Cursor, whether you use GitHub Copilot. It's not limited to a specific coding assistant. Those are built for software engineering, not for data engineering. And this is one of the reasons we are introducing Ultimate Code, which is open source agentic data engineering harness to get the data engineering work done. Let me tell you more about it. So when it comes to these things, one example Matthew showed us, right, just building the dashboard and Cloud Code was going in different directions. We have seen many examples of it, and I'm sure you must have seen it also. Statistically, even if you just look up over the internet, you will see almost 30% of AI generated SQL reference tables that don't exist. Classic problem, hallucinations, or doing things wrong with too much of a confidence. 78% of errors where AI goes and does wrong joins, queries that compile, run, return results, but they are returning results with incorrect data. And I don't want to name the names, but there are situations where AI went ahead, ran a query, and costed almost $5,000 to a company by executing that query. What we are realizing more and more is it's not a model problem. The models are getting amazing. Opus is amazing. GPTs are amazing. It's a harness problem. We need data engineering harness to get these things done. And let me talk about what do we exactly mean by agentic data engineering harness. So you got your data infrastructure. If you see that orange block there down below, you got your different warehouses, Snowflake, Databricks, BigQuery. Maybe you have some application databases like Postgres, etc. as well. Now, a lot of people, what they are trying to do is just take LLM and coding assistant and trying to get the work done on top of it. There has been a lot of chatter over the internet about context also. Hey, data work needs context, but it doesn't need just context. Yes, context is very important. What's happening in your data stack? What's your lineage schema? How people are making decisions? All that information, documents is important, but there are few more pieces which are also equally important. Governance. Like I just told you about an example where a query was run for $5,000 by an AI. Specific skills and tools are important when it comes to doing your Snowflake work, BigQuery work, or dbt, Airflow work, etc. There's so many tools are there in our hybrid data stacks today. Having supports for these tools and skills is very important, which are sort of a determined way for a particular company on how particular work should get done. And last but not the least, agent infrastructure. What is going to happen, and we are seeing the beginning of it, all of us are trying to use AI agents to get this work done. And then the number of AI agents are just going to grow more and more, right? When, as engineers, we did the work, for example, we had our development environments and still do. But imagine when there are hundreds of agents, how we give those agents development and testing environments, how we give them sandboxes, how we sort of control how the access is done for those agents or how the cost controls are done for those agents, etc. There is a large piece there in that agent infrastructure section also that we should start thinking about. General agents can edit SQL, but they have no idea of all the logic, all the information behind what that SQL is supposed to do. And that's why they are failing. And that's why we have launched this Ultimate Code as agentic data engineering harness. Comes with context, comes with governance, tools and skills, and agent infrastructure to get the work done for data engineering amazingly well. Now, Matthew, if you can go to the next slide, please. What we did, once we built it, we tested it against some of the benchmarks that are available there. Many of you must have heard of ADE benchmark, but if you haven't heard of it, DBT Labs, Ben Stansel, thanks to them, they put out this open source project called ADA Bench, against which you can test your AI agents to see how well they are doing. It's an open source project. They draw inspiration from some other projects like Spider, etc., to measure out how well agents are doing for data engineering. And different vendors have tested this, including Snowflake has tested their Cortex code against the benchmark, which is right now scoring 65%. We tested Ultimate Code against that, and with a lower tier model, by the way. We tested it with Sonnet. The Snowflake has tested with Opus, which is a higher tier model. And actually the result we got is 74.4%, almost 10% higher than Snowflake's Cortex code. So what this tells us is not about the model. It's actually how well your data engineering harness is configured and how well it is working for those data engineering tasks. So definitely check it out. If you check out our website, ultimate.sh, we have many more details about this benchmark also published there. So check it out when you get a chance. Now, why we decided to build it, right? Some other data engineering AI systems are coming in. Now there is a Cortex code out there. Databricks launched something like Genie code as well. And I'm sure that's not the end of it. There will be more and more that will be coming in also. Some of them from individual warehouse providers or database providers. But as our data stack is hybrid data stack, the agentic system that you are going to need needs to be hybrid as well. It needs to support multiple warehouses, multiple tools. That was one of the main reasons behind Ultimate Code, where we built it cross-platform. Second big reasons is based on the provider, we don't like the idea of forcing users to a certain LLM, right? Right now, there is models from Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini, amazing open source models are coming up as well, like Olama that can be deployed locally. So we wanted to give users the flexibility of bringing their own LLM. So with this harness, you can bring your own LLM. Even you can deploy your LLM on-prem. No data leaves outside of your network, and you can just use this. So your stack, your LLM that's working cross-platform, not just warehouses, but all the other different tools that are in the system. Some of the logos we have put there, like Snowflake, Databricks, Postgres, Redshift, etc. But we have plans to expand it even beyond that, not just your batch workloads, but streaming workloads like your Kafka, etc. We are working very rapidly to add support for that as well. And by having this flexibility, you get a single AI layer that works across your stack. Plus, you can keep the cost significantly down. These LLMs are expensive. Some other providers are actually charging markup on Anthropic models, etc., by a very high percentage. Definitely look it up if you're looking at using other solutions right now. But with Ultimate Code Harness, just bring your own LLM and pay the vanilla rates directly from the provider. Now, we have launched this with MIT license, completely open source, no black box there. We are hoping to receive issues from you. Our team will be working hard in getting those issues addressed, as well as contributions and feature requests as well. So if there is a specific tool, maybe homegrown tool that your company is using that you want to configure, you are welcome to contribute back to the repo, or even if you want to just fork it if you want to do something very custom and extend the project even beyond it. So this is a more than a project. This is the initiative we are taking on, and we need your support and help to sort of take this forward. Contribute it, use it. It's very easy to install and use, and start experiencing what we are talking about right now. And that's actually perfect segue to Matthew, who can take us a little bit deeper into how to install it and what are some of the key capabilities that this agentic data engineering harness comes with.
Great. Thanks, Pranesh. Just another reminder, definitely put questions, comments that you might have in any of the chats out there, and we'll certainly will get to those. So let's look at what does it take to get this started? How difficult is it? I think gone are the days of really complicated steps that you have to jump up and barriers of entry to experience software. I think that's been one of the great things that we've seen. And so literally you can install this just through an npm install. You can get Ultimate up and running right away. Just type in Ultimate. Probably one of the first things you'll want to do is maybe connect to pick your LLM, your warehouse, and then discover your entire project. So a lot of people have actually brought up a project they have, whether it's a DBT project or connecting to Snowflake or Databricks, and being able to figure out what's in my environment, what am I looking at, and it'll really get all of that stuff and be able to give you a safe and structured way to start engaging with that data and with the environment that you have. As we mentioned earlier, your code repository isn't the full story when it comes to data engineering work. And that's what makes this so unique. A harness has to go beyond the source code being really the source of truth, because there's a lot more moving parts. And this is why Ultimate will discover your entire tech stack. It's not going to be limited to just your data warehouse. It's going to be able to go through orchestration layer. It'll go through your transformation layer. It can look at your ingestion. It can look at every aspect of your system and get a complete picture of what's going on. So you have a much better chance of being able to get data engineering tasks performed correctly. So let's jump in and look at this as a quick example, going back to the example we did at the beginning. And as Pranesh mentioned, we're all fans of Claude Code. We use Claude Code to build code, and it does an amazing job. We love it. But with all these harnesses, if they're not a data engineering specific harness, they kind of struggle when it comes to those tasks. So going back to the same task, running again, this time with Ultimate Code, and the version of Ultimate Code that's dangerously skip permissions. And it's called YOLO because in reality, you're not dangerously skipping all permissions, because there's still things and guardrails in place. It's not that it'll go off and do things it completely shouldn't be allowed to do. So right here, you can see this is the TUI, the text user interface, where it starts going out, it starts building, it puts a plan together, and it'll start to kind of go through this process and build things out. And so from here on, it'll go through this and look at the data structures. It'll go look at the data. It'll interrogate the data, better understand what's there, create the structures, come up with this to-do list plan, and be able to go through that. What you're also able to do, and fully recommend you do this, is when you have this running, oftentimes there's a bit of a black box. With all of these harnesses, you don't get to see what's really going on. So we actually have something called /trace. If you do /trace, it will pop open a window which has a very, very rich experience on how you can look at what's going on, what are the tool calls that are happening behind the scenes, what's coming back, what is the LLM actually doing. So it's a much easier way to see. And you can see now this is the dashboard that we got compared to the other one. It's got multiple tabs. It's a lot cleaner. It's definitely got everything we wanted in there. The data, though, is actually where this is pretty interesting, because it actually does a much better job of understanding exactly what has happened, and what the data structures are and how it should put that together. Also keep to things like certain standards, right? So we want things to be built using best practices. We want things to be checked. We want to ensure that everything we're looking at is correct. And so that's what that harness is doing. It's not just freewheeling, trying to say, okay, I think this is what's going on, or I'll make something up. I'll synthesize some data if I can't find some data. It has all these things that prevent that from happening. So I talked a little bit about there's a little more safety in this harness, right? And so some of the controls and we have are that we go with this idea of least privileged permissions for the tasks that you want to do. And so we have three primary modes, and with that you can control what the harness can actually do. So an analyst mode means it can, it's read only. It's not going to go in and start updating data or doing anything that could change or write against your system. It's going to understand things like lineage. It's going to look at schemas and be able to go through that, query explanations, do analysis, do research projects, come back and present findings. So think of this as any time you might ask someone to go and do something and come back to report to you on what's going on. That would be the mode that you should go to. With Builder, it has all the same read capabilities, but also has write access. So it can create models, it can run dbt builds and test execution, it can write documentation, it can do all of the things that it would need to do in terms of building your data engineering pipeline from soup to nuts, from the very beginning to the very end, being able to do that very, very smoothly. Plan mode restricts the agent to reading files and editing files only. Can't run SQL, no bash, no file modification. This is really to outline an approach before switching to Builder to execute it. So this is where you would start, where you say, I'm thinking of doing this project. What would be the idea? What's the way? What's the approach we should have? It can read the structure of your project. It would understand your project. It would put a plan together. Then the builder or the analyst can take that plan and you can go and take a look at what's the data behind it. But that way you can ensure that the plan it's going to run on makes sense and you approve of that. So some of the key capabilities in the platform is the skill system. The skill system is a really important part of this harness. You can see what are those skills by just putting a / in Ultimate Code, and then you'll see a list of those. And these are built in for data engineering tasks specifically. So based on all our experience of building and coding and working with these tools, we've built out these skills that end up the LLM can use those. And so it has a much better result when it doesn't have to guess at how to do a certain skill or think this is how I think you do the skill, but the skill was actually intentionally reviewed, a human in the loop that created it, that looked at it, worked in conjunction with the Claude Code and examples to be able to build that out and ensure it's actually doing the right thing versus just letting LLM make things up, right? No memorization is needed. It's got the ability for it to go out and understand exactly what's going on, keep a working memory of your infrastructure, your system. It does a really good job too of if we move to the memory and training, of being able to keep what's important in context all the time. So if you use something like some of the other engineering harnesses, you often would see things like contexts being ejected, and the things it would inject would be your schemas. And then all of a sudden, it would start writing SQL that it thinks should exist, but doesn't exist because your schema has been ejected. So we curate and ensure that we always keep the important things that are required for data engineering in context. Has project-specific patterns that it looks for. It learns from examples. It learns from best practices. It does a really amazing job, even as if yesterday we helped someone out by pointing Ultimate Code at a dbt project they had built and look at best practices and look at how to make it better. And then the output was really actually rock solid. And we had it reviewed by someone who's well respected on our team in that community. And they said, this is all very, very solid advice for this project. Totally makes sense. So it actually can become a really good way too for you to look at your work and just say, hey, what am I missing? How could I make this better? Even if you're not at that point where you want agentic to be building everything, you certainly should be using it to help you to kind of find what blind spots you might have to ensure that you're not making mistakes. We talked about a little bit about governance, but we have rules and permissions, things that it cannot break and it cannot do. Some great examples of this is like PII masking. So this isn't a suggestion to the LLM. Like, please don't give me any PII data because I shouldn't be seeing it. And then it's kind of up to the LLM to think, well, there's bits of information here. Maybe this is misleading. Maybe this is not relevant in this context. So I'll just leave it out this time. PII masking is a guardrail. So it's a harness enforced piece. So before the LLM gets to even do that, it's checked. So this is part of where you have those really strict ways which actually produce better results because then it can't bypass and go and do strange things across the board. So these governance rules can be PII masking. It can be other things as well that you say, this is the way you do something. Don't try to do it any other way than this way. This is the approved way. Formatters. So maybe you've got standards that say, hey, I need my code to be written this way because humans are going to look at it and they need to be able to, when they look at it, understand what in the world it's doing. I want it to look a certain way. We have practices, best practices, and I want everything to be built to that standard. Observability, I mentioned tracing, super, super powerful. Probably some of the most powerful features I would recommend is /discover and then /trace and maybe a bit of YOLO mode if you're someone who likes to walk away from your desk and not be like, dang it, the minute I walked away from my desk, it asked me for permission to do something. And again, you can use those with confidence as we have these modes and we still have these rules and governance in place. Let me go back. Okay, so what we saw was the same prompt. And again, we use Claude Code because that's our personal favorite. And this is not a bash on Claude Code. Again, really amazing product. We use it. However, this is more of the the whole idea again is it's the harness for data engineering that's the most important part. And that's what we've built. And so if you do a comparison here, you can see the schema. Um, with Ultimate Code, it does introspection in real schemas. It actually can do that and then not even have to go back to the database to do it every single time. So it has its own Rust-based translation engine, so it can actually check your SQL, check it against the schema that it's already built and it keeps that schema always up to date. It can do column level lineage throughout your entire stack, not just model lineage that you might have seen in other solutions, but column level all the way through. It reads existing models first, so it can look at conventions. So if you're building in dbt, for example, it's going to look at what you have, how does it work, what's going on, and not just start to build something from scratch. Cost is always an important factor. We're always balancing how fast you want it, how robust you want it, and how much is it going to cost someone, right? Well, there's certain things you want to put in to ensure that we don't run something and go like, whoops, sorry, shouldn't have run that. So if someone having a great idea of what's expensive, pre-execution cost estimates, being able to ensure that we don't do things that are overly expensive. Manifest aware, build and verify. We mentioned the warehouses. We mentioned the governance that we have. So these are some of the things that really come in to make it a lot better, a lot more compelling when it comes to doing data engineering tasks. And so our Rust engine, as I mentioned, is built on Apache Data Fusion. It goes far beyond just static linting, if you're familiar with that. It actually resolves schemas, evaluates query logic, catches type mismatches, validates join correctness, detects broken column references, and does that all locally without ever executing that on a data platform, whether it be Snowflake or Databricks, BigQuery, etc. So very, very powerful, very, very fast. Definitely something we think that you will enjoy using. And so with that, we're super excited that people start using it, give us feedback, be part of the community that builds on it. And so that's something that's super important. And so definitely just again, it's just a simple command to get this started. Also, if you like this project, how can you help, right? This is not a commercial endeavor from Ultimate AI. We do build products for data engineering and we have some in market and we have some great customers that are using our products. But this is an open source. We think this is needed for the community and needs to be vendor agnostic in that sense, and vendor neutral, that this shouldn't be owned by one of the big players, because as data engineers represent the customer. They represent the person building the data pipeline, the company that wants the pipeline built. That person is already naturally independent. They will pick the best solution. They will look at things and figure out what they think is best. They don't go and just implement because the vendor told them, you should use this particular product or you should use this product. So having a vendor neutral open source project, we think is critical in this space. And so some ways you can do that. If you can't contribute a full code and be involved in that way, you can certainly start the repo. Let people know that you're using it, that it's valuable. Share it with other people. Go to the website and join the community. There's a QR code there to make it easy, or you can type in the link. But just scan that QR code, join the community, share your experiences, put your questions in there, and hopefully other people, as they get experience, will start to answer questions. This isn't meant to be an ultimate only thing. This is to be those who are in the community trying to do agentic engineering. All right, so we went through that. Hopefully we addressed some of your questions that you might have had along the way. But here we're going to jump through the comments and look for them. Maybe Pranesh, hopefully you might have been tracking some of these. Are there some questions while I scan through that you can just take off the gate?
Yeah, I I answered some questions already. Maybe Matthew, the one latest that came in from Rohan Paris here, you can take that one. What about data privacy for companies when using this?
Yeah, so data privacy for companies when using this. How does this access, example, Snowflake data? So this is where you control how this is running, right? It's running locally, and you can connect using your local credentials to Snowflake. your choice of where you want your LLM to be, if you have a private corporate LLM, or whether you want to run it locally with something like Olama, you can do that. So it accesses it exactly in the same way as your project would access. It's not that you have to go into Ultimate's platform and give us your credentials to Snowflake. You can do this just right there from the local program that you're running, the Ultimate code that you're running.
Something to add there. Also, the project comes with a very granular governance structure. You can write your rules and permissions for the agents that will be working through the project. In fact, you can create even your custom modes and agents, etc., as per your company and team standards as well. That's the beauty of open source, customizable, configurable harness for you.
All right. We did have another question around how does this compare to Snowflake intelligence, Cortex agents that use with semantic views, etc. What we would say to that is that Snowflake intelligence answers questions about your data, but Ultimate Code builds the pipelines that make your data worth asking questions about. Right? They operate at different levels, and if you're on more than just Snowflake, what a lot of people are, Cortex agents don't travel with you to those other solutions, right? They're going to be very specific to Snowflake, a little bit of dbt, et cetera, Airflow. But there's other things that a lot of people are leveraging and utilizing in their tech stack. And so Ultimate Code, the whole idea here is that it connects to all of the stack that you might have, all the way down to the BI level as well, and be able to understand how your BI is being used, and understand what's the impact of changing a pipeline that might have a downstream dependency on a dashboard for your CFO, and you don't want to blow that up and make some change, right? It'll understand how things are used. It'll understand that maybe you built something a certain way because your BI dashboard is expecting it in this peculiar way because it's kind of a workout round, and you built that workaround down in the data pipeline rather than in the BI because you couldn't do it there for some reason. So there's all these things that come in that kind of get lost. But with Ultimate Code, you can bring those things all together and get a holistic view of your entire data stack. Do you want to take this next one? How does it work in comparison to GitHub Copilot, Cursor, and Claude Code?
Yeah, sure. And I think probably this question came early during the session. GitHub Copilot, Cursor, Cloud Code, all are built for coding work, software engineering work. This is a data engineering harness to get the work done by agents, very specifically for building data pipelines, managing your data infrastructure, doing amazing work like creating your orchestration tags, etc. So definitely try it out. You can connect your subscriptions from GitHub Copilot, Cloud Code into the tool as well. So the underlying AI can come from those tools. And this project gives you that data engineering harness to make the work much better with subscriptions from Copilot and Cloud Code, etc. The one quick part I want to answer also, there is a question about the dbt power user extension as well. Does Ultimate Code work with dbt power user extension, or does it replace it? When we started with dbt power user extension, if you haven't used it, it's another open source project we have done just for the dbt work. We added some AI functionality there, and as we started adding it, we realized, hey, we need to do it not just for the dbt ecosystem, but like broader overall data engineering space. Ultimate Code is an attempt towards that. So, and we are working on integrating Ultimate Code into dbt power user extension as well. So they will work coherently, will help you get a lot of dbt work done amazingly fast and accurately as well. But at the same time, you'll be able to use the project for doing your orchestration work, doing your warehousing related work, or doing your extract and load pipeline related work also. So definitely check out the project and keep an eye on it. We are actively developing, so expect a rapid pace of feature developments there. Okay, I think we are almost about the time there. Thanks for all the questions. Any other questions from your side? We have the Slack channel link there. Please join it and keep sending us your questions and also suggestions on how we can make this better. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today. and your help and support in this endeavor.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.